Hello and welcome everyone to the budget special episode of the Polity Primer series by Drishti IAS. My name is Pragya. In the first part of the budget special series, we understood the economic aspects of the union budget, and you can watch that episode in the Economic Primer series on the channel. In today's episode of Polity Primer, we are going to discuss the constitutional aspects of the budget. In this discussion, we'll firstly study about the need for the budget to be passed through parliament. Then we are also going to understand the process of passing of budget, and lastly we'll see a practice question for your prelims examination and a practice question for your mains examination. So if I talk about this term budget, has this term budget been explicitly mentioned in the Constitution of India? The answer is no. The Indian Constitution under Article 112 mentions the term annual financial statement, and if I explain to you the meaning of this term budget, it is a statement of expenditure and receipts. So it is a statement of estimates of expenditure and receipts of the government of India in a given financial year. Now you will ask me, ma'am, what does this annual financial statement contains? So firstly, it will contain the estimates of revenue and capital receipts. Then it will contain ways to generate the revenue, Then it will contain estimates of expenditure, Then it will also contain the actual receipt of expenditure and receipts made in the last financial year. So it will also disclose that yes, what were the receipts by the government of India and what was the actual expenditure made by the government of India in the last financial year. And it will also mention the economic and financial policy of the country. So budget is a very important document because it is a statement of the estimate of receipts by the government of India, the expenditure that will be made by the government of India, because the government needs money. So you will come to know from where is this revenue generated by government of India and how the government of India is actually planning to spend the money it is receiving and what will be the government policies in that regard. So basically it is a very important document to judge the economic and the financial health of the country. And before the passing of the budget or before the introduction of the budget in the house, okay, you receive a document known as the Economic Survey of India, which basically tells you about the economic health of the country. Moving forward, let us analyze the need for the budget to be passed through parliament. Okay, so first things first, why do we need the budget to be passed through the parliament? Can't the government decide by itself its expenditure and earnings? So it is important for very crucial reasons such as checks and balances. Okay, so you know that there is a separation of power between the organs of the government: executive, legislature and the judiciary. So basically, budget as a law, budget is a law, okay, because it has to be passed by the parliament. So basically, it helps in maintaining checks and balances of executive on the legislature. Then there is representation of the people. Whenever we vote for someone in the election, we represent ourselves with the help of them in the floor of the parliament, and that is why the chosen representatives represent the financial decisions of the people on the behalf of the people of India in the House of the Parliament. Then there is transparency and accountability of the government in making financial decisions. It is open to public scrutiny. It is very transparent in nature, and that is why there is a need to pass the union budget through the parliament. Okay, then there are debates and discussions, fruitful information about the spending and the receipt of the money of government of India. Okay, then there is legal requirements such as the requirement of the Indian Constitution under Article 112 to present a annual financial statement before the Indian Parliament. Okay, then there is fiscal responsibility because the government is utilizing the taxpayers' money. So definitely we as taxpayers will be asking the government that, okay, let us know where you are spending our money, and that is why it is a fiscal responsibility on the government to inform us about the expenditures, the loans that the government is planning to take, and the revenue that is being generated by the government, and how it is planning to utilize that revenue for the benefit of the taxpayers. Okay, then obviously there is public trust involved in the government that yes, our chosen representatives are making correct financial decisions for us, and that is why budget has to be passed by the Parliament of India, and it is in the form of a legislation. Moving forward, let us understand that how exactly is this budget passed in the parliament. Okay, so firstly, there is a concept known as presentation of budget. So who will present the budget? It is presented by the finance minister on behalf of the President of India. On behalf of the President of India. Okay, because it is the constitutional duty of the President of India under Article 112 of our Indian Constitution to be caused the annual financial statement to be presented before the Parliament. And who fulfills his duty, constitutional duty? The Finance Ministry on behalf of the President of India presents the budget or the annual financial statement. Okay, and it is presented on the date as fixed by the President, because prior approval of the President is required for presenting the budget. And Article 74 states that President acts on the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers headed by the Prime Minister, and that is why President has no discretion in this regard. Whenever the Parliament feels that yes, there has to be a presentation of the budget, the President gives the go ahead, and it is then presented by the Finance Minister in the Lok Sabha, and generally the date is 1st Feb. Previously, it used to be presented at the end of the February, but we have, decreased this date, and now the budget is generally presented on 1st of Feb. Moving forward, budget speech by Finance Minister in Lok Sabha. So the Finance Minister delivers a budget speech outlining the government's fiscal policies, priorities and key proposals. So basically, budget speech contains two parts. Firstly, a normal speech by the Finance Minister, plus announcement of government policies. Announcement of government policies. And secondly, accounts. And this accounts also can be further subdivided into three parts. So the first part is receipts, which tells about the receipts of the government of India, the receipts of revenue. Then there is expenditure. Okay, and third one is demand for grant. Demand for grant. So all of this is mentioned in the budget speech. Firstly, a normal speech by the finance minister informing the parliament about the budget and the government policies, the agenda of the government, the vision of the government for the upcoming financial year. Then there is accounts. Firstly, the finance minister will inform about the receipts by the government, how much money is the government actually receiving. Then she will also inform about the expenditure by the government, and lastly there is a demand for grant, and all of this happens during the budget speech. Okay, moving forward, let us analyze the budget document. So as I have explained to you before, that the budget is known as the annual financial statement under Article 112 of our Indian Constitution, and it mandates the president to lay before both the houses of parliament the annual financial statement. And this is what I have explained, that it is the constitutional duty of the president to guarantee, to cause to be laid before the houses of the parliament the annual financial statement. And this constitutional duty that is being provided to the president of India is being fulfilled by the Ministry of Finance on behalf of the president of India. Okay, and it also contains an explanatory memorandum explaining the nature of receipts and expenditure during the current year and the next year, and the reasons for variations in the estimate for 2 years. So when I was explaining you the term budget, I said that yes, it also includes the actual expenditure and receipt by the government of India. So they will be comparing that yes, what was the receipt in the form of taxes, etc. How did the government raise the money? Where did it spend the money? And what is the difference between the spending and receipt in the former year and for the upcoming financial year? Okay, so all of this will be mentioned in a form of a memorandum that is attached to the budget speech. Okay, moving forward, the books of demands showing the provisions ministry wise and a separate demand for each department and service of the ministry, and this is popularly known as the demand for grant. Demand for grant. Okay, so it is not that on 1st February the budget is presented. The background work is going on before 5-6 months. So the Ministry of Finance asked the other ministries that okay, tell us an estimate of the money you are requiring, and this is the demand for grant that is being raised by various ministries, that yes, we require so and so much of money, and then the finance ministry prepares a report and discusses it with the parliament and finally raises the demand for grant. It also includes the finance bill, which deals with the taxation measures proposed by the government, and it is introduced immediately after presentation of the budget. So because the government needs to have money, and how will it obtain the money? By passing the financial bill. Okay, so passage of financial bill is an important aspect of the passing of the budget. It is accompanied by a memorandum explaining the provisions of the finance bill and their effect on the finances of the country. So basically it entails everything, that how the government is planning to raise the money and how the government is planning to spend the money. Moving forward, there is a discussion. After all of this, there is a discussion that happens on the both of the houses of the parliament. Okay, so there is a general preliminary discussion on a budget as a whole. So budget as a whole is discussed in both the houses of the parliament, Lok Sabha as well as the Rajya Sabha, and this discussion lasts for about 4-5 days, and only the broad outlines of the budget and the principles and policies underlying the budget are discussed, and the finance minister responds to the queries and concerns raised during the debate. So a healthy debate and a discussion takes place on the floor of both the houses of the parliament. so as, because money is involved, because expenditure is involved, so that is why, to ensure transparency and accountability and a duty to make right financial choices, this discussion goes on as on the topic of budget as a whole. Moving forward comes the committee stage. Okay, so it is done by concerned standing committees of the parliaments, and the committee submits its report within the specified time, and reports of standing committees are generally presented to the house, and these reports by these parliamentary standing committees are very important in nature. House proceeds to the discussion and voting on the demand for grants ministry wise, and this is mentioned under article 113 clause 2 of the Indian Constitution, and as per article 113 only the Lok Sabha is empowered to refuse or accept the demand for grant. This power is not vested in the Rajya Sabha. So kindly remember all of these factual information, because this is very important from the prelims perspective. Okay, moving forward, the time for discussion and voting for demands for grant is allocated by the speaker in consultation with the leader of the house, and on the last day of the allotted days, the speaker puts all the outstanding demands to the vote of the house, and this device is popularly known as Gillotin. Okay, so basically all of the demand for grants are discussed and debated on the floor of the houses, and some of the outstanding demands which are not being able to discussed are simply put by the speakers in the front of the houses, and basically they are passed by saying yes, 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 and this device is known as Gillotin. Okay, the role of parliamentary committees is not explicitly outlined in the constitution, but is integral to the effective functioning of the parliament, because it maintains checks and balances. It ensures that yes, a healthy debate is going on. It ensures that yes, there is transparency and accountability of the government towards the financial decisions that they are making, and that is why the report of these parliamentary standing committees become very important in this regard. Moving forward to the cut motions, another important aspect of budget are these cut motions. See, in the house of the parliament, both opposition and the ruling party members of parliament are sitting, and they have the right to express their dissatisfaction by these cut motions, and if supposedly these cut motions are passed, then the government is bound to fail, because it shows no confidence in the government, no confidence in the ruling government, and the government is definitely bound to fail if these cut motions are passed. However, no cut motion has been passed till date in the parliament. Okay, so a cut motion is a parliamentary tool to oppose budget allocations, and these are of three types. Firstly, policy cut questions the whole policy. For example, the government says that yes, we are dedicating this X amount for a welfare scheme. So basically they will question that what is the need to dedicate this X amount for a welfare scheme. Then there is economy cut, and it seeks a specific reduction. For example, you are allocating rupees 100 crore to a project. So this will demand that no, cut this amount to rupees 50 crores. And this is known as economy cut. And then there is a token cut, that is a symbolic reduction to a nominal sum. For example, you said that okay, deduct rupees 1 from this allocation, and this is known as a token cut. And this cut motion is a very important parliamentary tool that ensures checks and balances on the ruling government. And as I have mentioned before also, that if this cut motion is passed on the floor of the parliament, then definitely the government is bound to fail. Moving forward to the Appropriation Bill. And why is this Appropriation Bill important? Because you will not be able to withdraw the funds from Consolidated Fund of India. Without passing this appropriation bill, and that is why it forms an integral part of the passing of the budget. You cannot withdraw any amount from the Consolidated Fund of India for utilizing it without passing an appropriation bill. Okay, so after the general discussion on the budget as a whole and its proposal and voting on demands for grants have been completed, government introduces the appropriation bill because it seeks to withdraw the funds from the Consolidated Fund of India. Okay, and it is introduced to give authority to the government to incur expenditure from and out of the Consolidated Fund of India. As I have mentioned, and Article 114 designates the appropriation bill as a money bill. And what does this mean? That it can only be introduced in the Lok Sabha, because it is a money bill and money bill can exclusively be introduced in the Lok Sabha. So Rajya Sabha has absolutely no power over it. Okay, it can be discussed by the Lok Sabha, it can be voted by the Lok Sabha, but in Rajya Sabha only discussion can take place and not voting. So this is a very important part of the appropriation bill. Moving forward, let us discuss the finance bill. So as I have said that yes, finance bill is a very important aspect of the budget, passing of budget, and it is immediately passed after the passing of the budget. So basically it contains taxation proposals, changing in tax laws and other financial provisions, that is, it is brought to give effect to government's taxation proposal. So with respect to taxation, always remember the following points. Firstly, if a money bill has introduced any kind of taxation, then it can only be introduced in the Lok Sabha and not in the Rajya Sabha. Okay, Rajya Sabha has completely no power over it. Secondly, no taxation can be done without the authority of law. Okay, so Parliament cannot tax you without the authority of law. Thirdly, Parliament can reduce the tax or abolish it, but it cannot increase the tax. For example, the government in the budget speech or government in the finance bill mentions that yes, we are going to tax the online gaming sector at 28%. So definitely it can abolish this tax. It can think that okay, this is an unreasonable mean, we are not going to do this. And it can also reduce the tax to 25%, but it cannot say that it is increasing the tax that is being levied on the online gaming sector. So these were the important points related to the taxation power or the finance bill if the money bill is introducing taxation. Okay, so kindly remember all of these points because they are very important from the prelims perspective, and it is introduced in the Lok Sabha immediately after the presentation of the general budget. So you know the difference between Finance Bill 1, Finance Bill 2 and Money Bill. Okay, and we have discussed this in our Polity Primer lectures. Okay, so you can watch that for understanding the difference between Finance Bill 1, Finance Bill 2 and Money Bill. Okay, and it is taken up for consideration after the passing of the Appropriation Bill. And Article 110 classifies the Finance Bill as a money bill. That means they can only be introduced in the Lok Sabha because Rajya Sabha has no power over it. Okay, so Article 110 mentions about money bill, and money bill definitely can only be introduced in the Lok Sabha. Then comes the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act, also known as the FRBM Act. So this FRBM bill was introduced in the year 2000 by the then Finance Minister Yashwant Sinha, and it was approved by the Union Cabinet in 2003. It became effective on July 5, 2004, and the FRBM Act mandates the government to annually present the following documents in Parliament alongside the Union budget. So what are the following documents that have to be presented with the Union budget as per this bill? They are medium-term fiscal policy statement, macroeconomic framework statement, fiscal policy strategy statement, and the Act also requires projections of revenue deficit, fiscal deficit, tax revenue, and total outstanding liabilities as a percentage of GDP in the medium-term fiscal policy statement. And definitely it increases the transparency and accountability of the government in making any fiscal decisions. So this bill becomes very important in nature. Moving forward to the presidential assent, the final step in passage of any law is that it receives the presidential assent. So same is the case with Union budget also, as I have explained that it is also a form of a legislation. So after parliamentary approval, the budget including the finance bill and the appropriation bill requires the president assent to become law. And this was all about the passage of Union budget in the Parliament. With this, we come to a conclusion of our today's discussion. We have seen that yes, there are crucial reasons behind the need for the Parliament to pass the budget. We have also understood in detail that how the Union budget is passed in the Parliament. And now let us discuss a practice question for your preliminary examination. So the question is, with reference to the Union budget, which of the following are covered under non-planned expenditure? Number 1, defense expenditure. Number 2, interest payments. Number 3, salaries and pensions. And number 4, subsidies. Select the correct answer using the codes given below. Your options are: option A is 1 only, option B is 2 and 3 only, option C is 1, 2, 3 and 4, and option D is none of the above. Kindly drop your answer in the comment box below. Now let us discuss a practice question for your mains examination. So the question is, critically analyze the procedure of passing the Union budget in Parliament. So firstly, you will write about whatever I have explained to you about budget. Okay, that yes, the term budget is not mentioned in the Constitution of India. Article 112 mentions the term annual financial statement. It is the constitutional duty of the president to lay the annual financial statement before both the houses of the parliament, and this constitutional duty of the president is being fulfilled by the Ministry of Finance on the behalf of the president. So you'll mention all of the discussion on budget which I have mentioned in my discussion today. Then you will write the procedure of the passing of budget in very briefly, and you can conclude very holistically that yes, the Union budget shows us a true picture of the estimates of the receipts and the expenditure. It also informs us about the fiscal policies and the financial decisions of the government, and it also ensures that yes, the people of India are participating in making any kind of financial decisions for the country by help of their representatives. So you can conclude very holistically. I hope this session was insightful for you. If you have any feedback regarding this session, kindly drop it in the comment box below. If you liked today's discussion and found it to be helpful, kindly like the video and subscribe to our channel for more such updates. Thank you.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.